The blood-red sunset cast long shadows across the Arizona territory as Veda Blackfeather slipped away from her people's camp, tears streaming down her face. It was 1883, and at 22 summers, she carried a burden no one could see but everyone whispered about. 3 years of marriage to a warrior who had died in a skirmish with soldiers, and not once had her womb quickened with life. Veda found her way to the hidden spring where she often came to be alone with her shame. The Apache believed that children were the greatest blessing, and a woman who could not bear them was considered cursed. Her mother-in-law had begun suggesting that her son's spirit could not rest because Veda had failed him. The tribal elders looked at her with pity, and young warriors averted their eyes, fearful her barrenness might somehow touch them. She knelt by the water, her long black hair falling forward to curtain her face as she wept. The sacred spring was said to have healing powers, but after countless prayers and rituals, even this place had failed her. The crack of a twig made her freeze. "Don't be afraid," came a deep voice, the English words accented with a drawl she recognized from the white settlers. "I'm just passing through." Veda scrambled to her feet, reaching for the knife at her waist. A tall man stood at the edge of the clearing, his hands raised to show he meant no harm. He wore the typical garb of a cowboy: dusty denim, a worn shirt, boots with spurs, and a wide-brimmed hat that shadowed his face in the fading light. "This is Apache land," she said in English, her voice steady despite her racing heart. Like many of her people, she had learned the language of the white men, finding it useful when trading or negotiating. The man nodded respectfully. "I know. I'm looking for strays from the Diamond K Ranch. 3 calves wandered off." He paused, seeming to notice her tear-stained face. "Are you all right, miss?" "I am fine," Veda replied curtly, turning away to hide her face. "Your calves are not here. You should leave." Instead of departing, the cowboy took a step closer. "The name's Matthew Adams. Most folks call me Matt." He removed his hat, revealing kind eyes the color of the summer sky and hair the shade of wheat. "And you're crying." Something about his direct, unpitying gaze made Veda bristle and soften at the same time. "Veda Blackfeather," she offered reluctantly, "and my tears are my own concern." Matt nodded, replacing his hat. "Fair enough, but this spring it's special to your people, isn't it? I've heard the Apache believe it has healing powers." Veda's hand tightened on her knife. "You know much for a white man." "I try to understand the land I live on and the people who were here first," he replied simply. "The ranch owner's wife was helped by a medicine woman years back. We respect your ways." The sincerity in his voice gave Veda pause. Most white men she encountered viewed her people with fear or contempt. "The spring has not healed me," she found herself saying, immediately regretting the admission. Matt studied her for a long moment. "Some wounds can't be seen." A distant lowing sound interrupted their strange exchange. Matt tilted his head, listening. "That'll be my strays," he said. "I should get them home before nightfall." He hesitated, then added, "I ride this way often, if you ever need anything." He left the offer hanging in the air between them. "I need nothing from white men," Veda responded, but without the edge her words might have carried moments before. Matt smiled slightly. "Fair enough. Good evening, Miss Blackfeather." As he disappeared into the gathering dusk, Veda found herself wondering why she had given him her name, and why the memory of his respectful gaze lingered with her as she made her solitary way back to camp. 3 days later, Veda returned to the spring, drawn by habit and desperation. Her cousin had announced she was expecting her 4th child, and the celebration in the camp had been more than Veda could bear. To her surprise, Matt Adams was already there, sitting quietly by the water's edge. He stood when he saw her, that same respectful demeanor evident in his posture. "Miss Blackfeather," he greeted her. "I hoped I might see you again." Veda frowned. "You waited for me." "Not exactly," he replied. "I've been tracking a mountain lion that's been taking calves. Trail led me here." He gestured to the ground where large paw prints were visible in the soft earth near the spring. "But I won't lie, I thought about our meeting." Despite herself, Veda was intrigued. "You have no fear coming to Apache land alone," Matt shrugged. "I figure if the Apache wanted me dead, I would be all ready." His eyes crinkled at the corners when he smiled. "Besides, the rancher I work for, Mr. Keller, he has a good relationship with your chief, trading mostly." Veda knew this was true. Chief Nahilze had established cautious trade with some of the white settlers, recognizing that times were changing and that the Apache might need allies among the newcomers. "Why do you come to this place?" Matt asked, his gaze direct but not intrusive. Veda considered walking away, but something in the cowboy's manner invited confidence. "I come to pray," she said finally. "For healing." "You seem healthy to me," Matt observed. "Not all sickness shows on the skin," Veda replied, unconsciously placing a hand over her barren womb. Understanding dawned in Matt's eyes, but to Veda's relief, there was no pity there, only thoughtfulness. "I see," he said simply. They sat in surprisingly comfortable silence as the sun began its descent. Finally, Matt spoke again. "My mother couldn't have children," he said. "Not after me. It broke her heart for years." Veda looked at him sharply. "What happened?" "She found other ways to mother," Matt said. "Took in orphans, taught at the school when one was built. By the time she passed, she had more children than anyone in the county." He smiled at the memory. "She used to say that bringing life into the world isn't just about birthing babies." His words struck Veda like a physical blow. In Apache culture, a woman's worth was so tied to motherhood that she had never considered other paths to fulfillment. "Your mother was wise," she said softly. "She was," Matt agreed. "And stubborn as a mule. Wouldn't let anyone make her feel less than whole." When Veda left the spring that evening, she carried something new alongside her grief, a tiny seed of possibility. Over the next weeks, Veda found herself drawn back to the spring, and Matt seemed to have an uncanny knack for being there too. Sometimes they spoke little, simply sharing the peaceful space. Other times, they talked for hours, Matt about ranch life and his dreams of having his own land someday. Veda about Apache ways and the challenges her people faced as white settlements expanded. "The government men speak of reservations," she told him one day, her voice tight with anger and fear. "They want to put us in a cage like animals." Matt's face darkened. "It's not right," he said. "This land has been yours since before my kind knew it existed." His understanding meant more to Veda than she wanted to admit. In her own community, she had grown increasingly isolated, her barrenness making her an object of whispered concern. The elders had begun suggesting she should live with her aging aunt, helping care for the old woman as a way to have purpose. One evening in late summer, Matt arrived at their meeting place with a small cloth-wrapped bundle. "I brought something," he said, looking uncharacteristically nervous. "A gift, if you'll accept it." Curious, Veda unwrapped the package to find a small book. "It's poetry," Matt explained. "By a woman named Emily Dickinson. My mother loved her words." He looked embarrassed. "I noticed you speak English well, and I thought, well, her words about nature and life, they remind me of some of the things you've said." Veda ran her fingers over the book's cover, deeply moved by the thoughtfulness of the gift. No one had given her anything in a long time, as if her inability to bear children had made her unworthy of such gestures. "Thank you," she said softly. "I will treasure it." That night, by the light of a small fire in her lodge, Veda read the strange, powerful words of the white woman poet. One poem in particular caught her attention. Hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul, and sings the tune without the words, and never stops at all. She fell asleep with the book clutched to her chest, dreaming of birds and possibilities. As autumn approached, Veda realized with a start that she had begun to measure time by her meetings with Matt. The shame that had driven her to the spring had been gradually replaced by anticipation. His friendship had become precious to her, a space where she was valued for her thoughts and spirit, not judged for her barren womb. But trouble was brewing. Tensions between the Apache and the white settlers were escalating. A group of young warriors, frustrated by broken promises and encroachment on tribal lands, had raided a stagecoach. In retaliation, a posse from the nearest town had burned an Apache camp, though thankfully no lives were lost. Chief Nahilze walked a precarious line, trying to maintain peace while protecting his people's rights and dignity. When Veda's aunt mentioned seeing her talking with a white man near the sacred spring, the chief summoned Veda to his lodge. "Is this true?" he asked, his weathered face grave. "You meet with a cowboy from the Diamond K," Veda held her head high. "It is true. His name is Matthew Adams. He respects our ways and has never brought harm." The chief studied her. "These are dangerous times, daughter of our people. Your friendship with this man could be misunderstood by both sides." "He is honorable," Veda insisted. "Perhaps," the chief conceded, "but others are not. Until tensions ease, you must not meet with him." Heart heavy, Veda agreed. But that night she slipped away to the spring, hoping to warn Matt about the increased danger. He was there, pacing anxiously. When he saw her, relief washed over his face. "Veda, I was worried. There's talk in town about army troops coming to deal with the Apache problem. I had to warn you." Veda's blood ran cold. "My chief has heard similar rumors. He has forbidden me to meet with you." Matt stepped closer, taking her hands in his. The touch sent warmth spiraling through her body. "Veda, He hesitated, then continued, his voice husky with emotion. "These past months, knowing you, talking with you, it's changed me. I care for you in a way I never expected." Veda's heart thundered in her chest. She had been so focused on hiding her growing feelings that she hadn't dared hope he might return them. "I am Barren," she blurted out, needing him to understand the full truth. "My husband died, and in 3 years I gave him no children. My people believe I am cursed." Matt's grip on her hands tightened. "You are the most alive person I've ever known," he said fiercely. "Full of wisdom and strength and beauty. Any man who can't see that is a fool." The sincerity in his eyes broke something open inside Veda. Before she could respond, however, voices called her name from the direction of the camp. "I must go," she whispered urgently. "Do not come here again, it is not safe." Matt nodded reluctantly. "Meet me at Whispering Canyon 3 days from now at noon, if you can, if you want to." Veda hurried away, her mind in turmoil. Did she dare meet him again? And if she did, what future could they possibly have? For 3 days, Veda wrestled with her decision. The Apache camp was alive with tension and preparation. Scouts reported that soldiers had indeed been dispatched from Fort Bowie, though their intentions remained unclear. Chief Nahilze had ordered the camp ready to move at a moment's notice. On the morning of the 3rd day, Veda made her choice. She packed a small bundle of possessions, including Matt's book of poetry, and slipped away from camp. If she was caught, she would claim to be gathering herbs for medicine. The journey to Whispering Canyon took longer than expected. When she finally arrived, the sun was high overhead, beating down mercilessly. The canyon was eerily quiet with no sign of Matt. Had he changed his mind? Or had something happened to him? Veda waited, anxiety growing with each passing hour. As the sun began to dip toward the horizon, she reluctantly accepted that he wasn't coming. Heart heavy, she turned to leave and froze. 3 white men blocked her path. They weren't cowboys. Their clean clothes and manner marked them as townsmen. And from the way they looked at her, with a mixture of contempt and something far more dangerous, Veda knew she was in trouble. "Well, look what we found," the tallest one said, spitting tobacco juice on the ground. "One of them Apache squaws all alone." "Might be a spy," another suggested, his hand resting on the pistol at his hip. "Gathering information for a raid." Veda's hand went to her knife, but she knew she was outnumbered. "I am not a spy," she said in clear English. "I am gathering plants for medicine." Her use of English seemed to surprise them momentarily, but the third man, shorter and meaner looking than the others, just laughed. "She speaks good for a savage. Maybe we should take her back to town. Let the sheriff decide what to do with her." The way he leered made it clear he had other intentions. Veda backed away, calculating her chances of outrunning them. Suddenly, a gunshot cracked through the air. The men whirled around as Matt rode into view, his rifle pointed skyward. "The lady's with me," he said, his usually friendly voice hard as stone. "And you boys are trespassing on Diamond K land." The tall man spat again. "Since when does the Diamond K hire Apache?" "Since never," Matt replied evenly, lowering his rifle to point at the men. "Miss Blackfeather is a guest, and you're leaving. Now." For a tense moment, Veda thought the men might draw on Matt, but something in his steady gaze must have convinced them he meant business. With muttered curses, they backed away. "This ain't over, Adams," the short one threatened. "People in town won't like you fraternizing with Indians." "That's my concern," Matt replied coldly. "Now get." Once the men had retreated, Matt quickly dismounted and rushed to Veda. "Are you hurt? I'm so sorry I'm late. There was trouble at the ranch. A fence break, and then I had to dodge a military patrol." The relief of seeing him, of being safe, overwhelmed Veda. Without thinking, she stepped into his arms, feeling them close around her protectively. "I was afraid you had changed your mind," she confessed against his chest. Matt's hand gently stroked her hair. "Never," he vowed. "But Veda, it's getting dangerous. The army's setting up checkpoints. There's talk of forcing all Apache onto the San Carlos reservation within the month." Veda pulled back to look at his face. "My people will resist. There will be bloodshed." "I know," Matt said grimly. "That's why I need to tell you something, and then you need to make a choice." He took a deep breath. "I'm leaving for California. I've saved enough to buy a small spread near a place called Mendocino. It's beautiful there, mountains and forests that meet the ocean." Veda stared at him, trying to process his words. "You are leaving Arizona?" "Yes, and I want you to come with me." Matt took her hands in his. "As my wife, if you'll have me." The world seemed to tilt beneath Veda's feet. "Your wife? But I told you I cannot have children." "And I told you that doesn't matter to me," Matt said fiercely. "Veda, I love you, your mind, your spirit, your courage. We can build a life together, just the two of us. Or maybe someday we'll take in children who need a home like my mother did." His eyes searched hers. "But only if that's what you want." Veda's mind raced. Leave her people. Marry a white man. It seemed impossible. And yet the idea of a fresh start, far from the whispers and pitying glances with this man who saw her as whole and valuable. "My people would see it as betrayal," she said softly. Matt nodded, pain evident in his eyes. "I know. And I wouldn't ask you to choose if I thought there was another way, but this conflict is coming to a head and I'm afraid for you." He was right. Veda had seen the determination in the chief's eyes, the righteous anger of the young warriors. The Apache would fight for their freedom, their way of life. Many would die. "When would we leave?" she asked, her voice barely audible. Hope flared in Matt's eyes. 3 days. I've already given notice at the ranch. We'd head west, avoiding the main routes." "If I come with you," Veda said carefully, I would bring my ways with me. I would teach our children, whether born to us by miracle or brought to us by fate, the Apache language, stories, and beliefs. I would want nothing less, Matt assured her. Your heritage is part of who you are, part of what I love. Veda took a deep breath. I will meet you here in 3 days at dawn. If I am not here by the time the sun clears the canyon rim, it means I cannot come. Matt nodded, understanding the gravity of her decision. I'll be waiting, he promised. However long it takes. He kissed her then, a gentle touch that conveyed all the love and respect he felt for her. When they parted, Veda carried the warmth of that kiss back to camp, a secret fire to sustain her through the difficult days ahead. The next 3 days were among the hardest of Veda's life. She watched her people prepare for resistance, young men painting their faces for war, women hiding food caches in the hills. She helped her aunt pack her few possessions, knowing the old woman would struggle with a forced march to San Carlos. On the night before her planned departure, Veda sought out the tribal medicine woman, an ancient grandmother named Naylan, who had always shown her kindness. I sense a great decision weighs on your spirit, daughter, the old woman said, motioning for Veda to sit beside her fire. Veda nodded, unable to hide the truth from those wise eyes. I have been offered a different path, she admitted, with a man who sees past my emptiness. Emptiness. Naylan repeated, her weathered face thoughtful. I see no emptiness in you, Veda Blackfeather. I see a woman whose womb may be quiet but whose heart sings loudly. Tears sprang to Veda's eyes at the unexpected understanding. He is not Apache, she whispered. He is a white man with a good heart. He offers a new life far from here. Naylan was silent for a long moment, feeding twigs to her small fire. Finally, she spoke. The old ways teach us that a woman's purpose is to bear children for her people, but the Creator speaks to my heart of other truths as well. She fixed Veda with a penetrating gaze. Sometimes the greatest service to one's people is to survive, to carry their stories and wisdom to new places, to plant those seeds in different soil. Hope unfurled in Veda's chest. You do not think it betrayal. The betrayal would be to deny the path the Creator has set before you, Naylan said firmly. I have watched you wither here, daughter. This man has brought color back to your cheeks, light to your eyes. She reached into a small pouch at her waist and withdrew a smooth stone pendant on a leather thong. Take this. It is a protection stone, blessed by 7 generations of medicine women. Veda accepted the gift with trembling hands. Thank you, grandmother. Go with my blessing, Naylan said. And remember, a tree that cannot put down roots in one place may flourish in another. Before dawn the next morning, Veda slipped away from camp. She left a letter written in careful English for the chief, explaining her decision and asking forgiveness. In her bundle, she carried only what she could not bear to leave behind: her mother's beaded dress, the book of poetry from Matt, and Naylan's stone pendant. As she approached Whispering Canyon, fear and doubt assailed her. Was she making a terrible mistake? Would Matt even be there? The eastern sky was just beginning to lighten when she reached the canyon entrance. And there, silhouetted against the pre-dawn glow, was Matt with 2 horses, waiting patiently as promised. When he saw her, his face transformed with joy. He rushed to meet her, gathering her in his arms as if she were the most precious thing in the world. You came, he breathed against her hair. I came, Veda confirmed, feeling a weight lift from her shoulders. To build a new life with you. They rode west as the sun rose, staying off the main trails. Matt had planned their route carefully, avoiding army patrols and settlements where questions might be asked about a white man traveling with an Apache woman. The journey to California was long and not without hardship. They faced scorching desert heat, mountain passes where the air grew thin and cold, and once, A terrifying encounter with bandits that they narrowly escaped. Through it all, Veda discovered a strength in herself she hadn't known existed. And in Matt, she found not just a lover but a true partner who valued her skills and wisdom. When she fell ill after drinking from a contaminated stream, he tended her with unwavering care. When his horse went lame in the Mojave, she crafted a poultice from desert plants that helped heal the animal enough to continue their journey. At night, under star-filled skies, they spoke of the future they would build together. Matt described the land he hoped to purchase, with its rich soil and abundant water. Veda shared her dream of creating a garden filled with both healing plants from her Apache tradition and new varieties they would discover in their new home. "You ever regret coming with me?" Matt asked one night, his voice uncertain in the darkness. Veda thought about the family and culture she had left behind, the familiar landscapes and rhythms of life. "I miss my people," she admitted. "I always will. But know, my heart, I do not regret choosing us." When they finally reached the northern California coast in late autumn, the majesty of the ocean-meeting forest-covered mountains took Veda's breath away. The land Matt had arranged to purchase sight unseen exceeded their expectations, 20 acres of mixed woodland and meadow, with a small but sturdy cabin that needed only minor repairs. They were married by a justice of the peace in the nearest town, a small logging community where Matt's honest manner and carpentry skills quickly earned him respect. If people wondered about his Apache wife, few dared say anything to their faces. And those who got to know Veda soon discovered her intelligence, her knowledge of plants and healing, and her quiet strength. Their first winter was challenging but sweet, cocooned in their snug cabin while rain and occasionally snow fell outside. They worked side by side to make the place their own, Matt building furniture from local timber, Veda weaving baskets and creating medicines from the plants she carefully identified in their new environment. In spring, Veda planted a garden that blended crops familiar to both their traditions. To her surprise, several local women sought her out, curious about her knowledge of herbal remedies. By summer, she had a small but steady stream of visitors seeking help with everything from colicky babies to arthritic joints. "You've become the medicine woman of Mendocino County," Matt teased one evening as they sat on their porch, watching the sunset paint the sky in colors that reminded Veda of the Arizona desert. "Not a medicine woman," Veda corrected with a smile. "Just someone who knows a few things that can help." But in truth, she had found purpose in this unexpected role. The gratitude in people's eyes when she eased their suffering filled a space in her heart that had ached for so long. One crisp autumn day, almost a year after their arrival, a wagon pulled up to their homestead. A harried-looking man climbed down, cradling a bundle in his arms. "Are you the Indian healer?" he asked without preamble. "My wife died birthing this little one 3 days ago. He won't take goat's milk and he's fading fast." Veda approached cautiously, gently folding back the blanket to reveal a tiny, red-faced infant whimpering weakly. "I will try to help," she said, taking the baby in her arms. The small weight of him awakened an ache she thought she had made peace with. For 3 days and nights, Veda barely slept, trying every remedy she knew to help the struggling newborn. She made tea from fennel and dill to ease his colic, bathed him in warm water infused with calming herbs, and created a formula of goat's milk mixed with herbal tinctures that he finally began to accept. Matt watched her with the child, his eyes soft with wonder and love. "You're a natural mother," he said quietly on the 3rd night as the baby finally slept peacefully. Veda looked up, surprise giving way to understanding. "This is what your mother meant, isn't it? About different ways to bring life into the world." When the father returned, he found his son thriving. With tears in his eyes, he confessed he couldn't care for the baby alone, not with 3 other children and a farm to run. "I was hoping," he began hesitantly. "Folks in town say you and your husband have no children of your own. I know it's asking a lot, but would you consider?" Veda and Matt exchanged a long look, an entire conversation passing between them without words. "What's his name?" Matt asked finally. "He doesn't have one yet," the man admitted. "My wife and I couldn't agree before." He trailed off, grief etching lines in his weathered face. That night, after the man had left with promises to return with the necessary paperwork, Veda and Matt sat before their fireplace, the sleeping infant between them. "Are you sure about this?" Veda asked, still hardly daring to believe the turn their lives had taken. Matt reached across to take her hand. "I've never been more sure of anything," he said. "Except marrying you." Veda looked down at the baby, their son, his tiny face peaceful in sleep. "Thomas," she said softly. "It means twin in my language, because he was born twice, once to his first mother and now to us." "Thomas Adams," Matt agreed, his voice thick with emotion. "Son of Matthew and Veda." As winter gave way to spring again, word spread about the couple on the edge of town who had taken in an orphaned baby. Other children found their way to Matt and Veda's door, a girl whose parents had died of influenza. Twin boys, whose mother couldn't feed 4 hungry mouths after their father was killed in a logging accident. By the time Thomas was 5, the Adams homestead was home to 6 children of various ages and backgrounds. Matt had built an addition to the cabin and started a successful business selling his fine carpentry in town and to wealthy families in San Francisco. Veda's garden had expanded into a small but respected herbalist practice. Women from as far as 50 miles away sought her knowledge for birthing and women's complaints, while the local doctor sometimes consulted her on difficult cases. One summer evening, as the children played in the yard and the ocean breeze carried the scent of pine and salt, Matt found Veda sitting on their porch, a faraway look in her eyes. "Penny for your thoughts," he said, settling beside her. Veda smiled, leaning against his solid shoulder. "I was thinking about the sacred spring back in Arizona, how I used to go there to pray for a child." Matt's arm wrapped around her. "And now look at us, more children than we know what to do with some days." Veda laughed softly. "The Creator has a strange sense of humor." She grew serious again. "I was so ashamed then, so certain my worth was tied to what my body could not do." "And now?" Matt prompted gently. Veda gestured toward their homestead, the thriving garden, the workshop where their oldest boy was learning carpentry from Matt, the kitchen where their eldest girl was becoming skilled at combining Veda's herbal knowledge with traditional cooking. "Now I know that being barren and being empty are not the same thing," she said. "My life is full to overflowing. Our children may not have come from my body, but they are of my heart." Matt kissed her tenderly. "You are the most life-giving person I've ever known, Veda Adams. These children, this land, me, we all flourish because of you." As twilight deepened into night and their children came running for supper, Veda felt a deep contentment settle in her soul. The path that had led her here had been unexpected and often difficult. But looking at the family, she and Matt had created a family bound not by blood, but by love and choice. She knew with absolute certainty that she was exactly where she was meant to be.